So now we're going to do the remaining 3 problems on the classroom practice. So number 4 is y equals sec. Number 5, sorry, we did the first 4. Now we're going to involve some shifts. So y equals secant theta minus 3 pi over 4. All right, so now basically what we have is parentheses, which means we've got a horizontal shift. All right, so we take theta minus 3 pi over 4, set it equal to 0. Theta equals 3 pi over 4, so that's our left endpoint. All right, theta has no variable. All right, so that means the period is 2 pi again. To get our right endpoint, we add the period. The denominator is 4, so we multiply 4 times 2, we got 8. So the right endpoint would be 8 pi over 4 plus 3 pi over 4, which is 11 pi over 4. Again, if you're struggling with that, ask questions over the next few days, because that's going to be important when you do this. All right, so I start at 3 pi over 4. I end at 11 pi over 4. And then my next cycle is going to end at 19 pi over 4. All right. So, secant, we go back to cosine. So there's our max. Min's going to be halfway. All right. 3 plus 11 is 14. Half of 14 is 7 pi over 4. 7 plus 11 is 18. Half of 18 is 9 pi over 4. 3 plus 7 is 10. Half of 10 is 5 pi over 4. I'm going to label that above so you can see it. So 3 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, 7 pi over 4, 9, and 11. So the pattern continues. Okay, so 5 pi over 4, the quarter points is where it's 0, so there's my asymptote. Again, if you decide you want to do it without the original graph, okay. I do the same thing here, but I don't have to label it, making sure I have my quarter points. And then I put in a couple more parabolas at the maxes and mins. All right, so you need to, that's why we spend so much time with sine and cosine. You can't really do secant and cosecant without it. So that's with the shifting of the horizontal. Okay? So now we're going to do the last one on that sheet, which is y equals cosecant theta plus 1. All right, y equals cosecant theta plus 1. Oh, I apologize for number 5. If we go back for a second, I do the domain range and all that stuff. I forgot. So number 5, the domain. All right, since we started 3 pi over 4, we ended up 11 pi over 4. We ended up at 5 pi over 4. So 5 pi over 4 was your first asymptote, plus minus. Since theta doesn't have again, theta didn't have a coefficient, so the period was 2 pi, half of pi is pi, so it would be n pi. The asymptotes are the same thing, except equals instead of not equals. All right, and then the range, since there wasn't a coefficient, we go back to negative infinity to 1, little or symbol, and then 1, infinity. We have ourselves that information. So if you want to add that to the last one. All right, so number 6. So number 6. All right, y equals cosecant theta plus 1. All right, so now we're going to have a vertical shift. I know that because it's outside parentheses. All right, so cosecant comes from sine. All right. So there is my 2 pi, there is my 4 pi. We're adding 1. So my minimum is now going to be at 0. My maximum is going to be at 2. And my halfway point is going to be at 1. Okay. First quarter point max at 2. Third quarter point minimum at 0 this time because of the shift of 1. This is going to be a maximum too. That's going to be a minimum. Now, basically, ladies and gentlemen, there's my sine graph. We have to figure out where our zeros are. Well, basically, ladies and gentlemen, they're going to be shifted up 1. So a vertical shift doesn't really have an impact on our asymptotes. All right, because if we plug in, let's say pi to this, okay, because that's where the halfway point is. If we plug in pi, the cosecant of pi, all right, since y is 0, would be a number over 0, which doesn't exist. All right, so the asymptotes now are not at 0, they're at the 1. So basically it shifts everything up. I don't know if that's easier or harder for you, but that's the idea behind it. All right. So that's what we're looking at for that. The domain, x not equal to, well, since there's no vertical shift, we'll start with pi plus minus n pi. Since it didn't have a parenthesis, since it didn't have a coefficient, the asymptotes are at x equals pi plus minus n pi. And then the range is what has the greatest impact. It's still negative infinity, but the minimum now is at 0. We close it off, we put the or. The maximum's at 2, and infinity going that way. All right, so those are the practice problems for secant and cosecant. Make sure you work on the homework that's due later in the week. All right, and make sure you're either messaging or asking questions in class this week for the upcoming quiz on all graphing. Hope this helped. Stay healthy.